Okay, I'm live. Welcome back to my video. Today, I will be reading Numbers, chapters 30, 31, 32, and 33. Let's get started. Um, Regulations about vows. Moses told the leaders of the Israelite tribes, "This is what the Lord has commanded. When a man makes a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to put himself under an obligation, he must not break his word. He must do whatever he has promised. When a woman in her father's house during her youth makes a vow to the Lord and puts herself under an obligation, and her father hears about her vow or the obligation she puts herself under, and says nothing to her, all her vows and obligations she puts herself under are binding. But if the father prohibits her on the day he hears about it, none of her vows and none of the obligations she puts herself under are binding. The Lord will release her because her father has prohibited her. If a woman marries while her vows or the rash commitment she herself made are binding, and her husband hears about it and says nothing to her when he finds out, her vows are binding, the obligations she put herself under are binding. Her husband prohibits her when he hears about he will cancel her vow that is binding or the rash commitment she herself made. The Lord will release her. Every vow a widow or divorced woman puts herself under is binding to her. If a woman in her husband's house has made a vow or put herself under an obligation with an oath, and her husband hears about it, says nothing to her, and does not prohibit her, all her vows are binding, and every obligation she puts herself under is binding. But if her husband cancels them on the day he hears about them, that came from her lips, whether her vows or obligations, is binding. Her husband has canceled them, and the Lord will release her. Her husband may confirm or cancel any vow or sworn obligation to deny herself. If her husband says nothing at all to her from day to day, he confirms her vows and obligations, which are binding. He has confirmed them because he said nothing to her when he heard about them. But if you will be responsible for commitment, these are the statutes the Lord has commanded Moses concerning the relationship between a man and his wife, or between father and his daughter, in his house during her youth. War of Midian, chapter 31. The Lord spoke to Moses. I'm going to go ahead and move this on. I'm not sure how clear I made it in the last one. It was really confusing what I was saying. Usually, I have a monitor and I have a laptop, and the camera's on the laptop, but the window where it shows that's live and I see myself on, I had it on the monitor. And so if it's on the monitor, I look at the monitor instead of looking at the camera. And so I'm looking like way over to the side if I do that. War of Midian, chapter 31. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Execute vengeance for the Israelites against the Midianites. After that you'll be gathered to your people." So Moses spoke to the people, "Equip some of your men for war. They'll go against Midian to inflict the Lord's vengeance on them. Send 1,000 men to war of each Israelite tribe, so that 1,000 are recruited from each Israelite tribe out of the thousands in Israel. 12,000 equipped for war. Moses sent Moses sent out 1,000 from each tribe to war. They went to Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, in whose care were the holy objects and the signal trumpets. They waged war against Midian as the Lord had commanded Moses, and killed every male among them, the others slain by them. They killed the Midianite kings, Evi, Rechem, Zer, Hur, and Rebah, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with a sword. The Israelites took the Midianite women and their dependents captive, and they plundered all their cattle, flocks, and property. They then burned all the cities where the Midianites lived, as well as their encampments. They took away all the spoils of war and the captives, both people and animals. They brought the prisoners, animals, and spoils of war to Moses, the priest Eleazar, and the Israelite community across the plains of Moab by the Jordan, across from Jericho. Moses, the priest Eleazar, and all the leaders of the community went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses came furious with the officers, the commanders of the thousands and commanders of hundreds who were returning from a military campaign. "Have you let every female live?" he asked them. They are the ones who, at Balaam's advice, incited the Israelites to unfaithfulness against the Lord in Peor incident. So the plague came against every Lord's community. So now kill every male among the dependents and kill every woman who has formed a bed with a man. But keep alive for yourselves all the young females who have not gone to bed with a man. You are to remain outside the camp for 7 days. All of you prisoners who have killed a person or touched the dead are to purify yourselves on the 3rd day and 7th day. Also purify everything, garments, leather, goods, things made of goat hair, and every article of wood. Then the priest Eleazar said to the soldiers who had gone to battle, "This is the legal statute the Lord commanded Moses: the gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, and lead. Everything that can withstand fire, you to pass through fire, and it'll be clean. It must still be purified with purification water. Anything that cannot withstand fire, pass through water on the 7th day. Wash your clothes, and you will be clean. After that, you may enter the camp." The Lord said to Moses, "You, the priest Eleazar, and the family heads of the community are to take count what captured people and animals. Then divide the captives between the troops who went out to war and the entire community. Set aside a tribute for the Lord from what belongs to the fighting men who were out to war. One of every 500 people, cattle, donkeys, sheep, and goats. Take a tribute from their half and give it to the priest Eleazar as a contribution to the Lord. From the Israelites' half, take one of every 50 people, 50 from the people, cattle, donkeys, sheep, and goats, all the livestock, and give them to the Levites who will perform duties of the Lord's tabernacle." So Moses and the priest Eleazar did as the Lord commanded Moses. The captives remaining from the plunder of the army had taken totaled 675,000 sheep and goats, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 people. All the females had gone to bed with a man, who had not gone to bed with a man. The half portion of those who went out to war numbered 337,500 sheep and goats. And the tribute to the Lord was 675 from the sheep and goats. From the 36,000 cattle, the tribute to the Lord was 72. From the 30,500 donkeys, the tribute to the Lord was 61. And from the 16,000 people, the tribute to the Lord was 32 people. Moses gave the tribute to the priest Eleazar as a contribution for the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. When the Israelites' half, which Moses separated from the men who fought, the community's half was 337,500 sheep and goats, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. Moses took out one out of every 50 selected from the people of the livestock the Israelites' half. He gave them to the Levites to perform the duties of the Lord's tabernacle as the Lord had commanded him. The officers who were over the thousands of the army, the commanders of thousands and hundreds, approached Moses and told him, "Your servants have taken the census of the fighting men under our command, and not one of us is missing. So we have presented to the Lord an offering of the gold articles each man found, armlets, bracelets, rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord." Moses and the priest Eleazar received from all the articles made out of gold, all the gold of the contribution they offered to the Lord. From the commanders of thousands and hundreds was 420 pounds. Each of the soldiers had taken a plunder for himself. Moses and the priest Eleazar received gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds and brought it to attend the meeting as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord. I'm just seeing how much longer it'll be. So there's about 2.5 pages left. So, Transjordan settlements, chapter 32. The Reubenites and Gadites had a very large number of livestock. When they surveyed the lands of Jazer and Gilead, they saw the region was good for one livestock. Was a good one for livestock. So the Gadites and the Reubenites came to Moses, the priest Eleazar, and the leaders of the community and said, "Territory of Ataroth, Dibon, Jezer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Lizia, Sebum, Nebu, and beyond, which the Lord struck down before the community of Israel, was a good land for livestock and servants' own livestock. They said, "If we found favor with you, let this land be given to your servants as possessions. Don't make us cross the Jordan." But Moses asked the Gadites and Reubenites, "Should your brothers go to war while you stay here? Why are you discouraging the Israelites from crossing into the land the Lord has given them? That's what your fathers did when I sent them to Kadesh Barnea to see the land. And after they went as far as the Esco Valley, they saw the land. They discouraged the Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given them. So the Lord's anger burned that day, and he swore an oath, because they did not remain loyal to me. None of the men, 20 years old or more, who came up from Egypt will see the land I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. None except Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, because they did remain loyal to the Lord. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years until the whole generation that had done what evil in the Lord's sight was gone. And here you, a brood of sinners, stand in your father's place, adding even more to the Lord's burning anger against Israel. If you turn back from following him, he'll once again lead his people in the wilderness, and you will destroy all of them. Then he approached them and said, "We want to build sheep pens here for our livestock and cities for our dependents. But we will arm ourselves and be ready to go ahead of the Israelites until we have brought them into their place. Meanwhile, our dependents will remain in the fortified cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each of the Israelites has taken possession of his inheritance. Yet we will not have an inheritance with them across the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance will be across the Jordan to the east." Moses replied to them, "If you do this, if you arm yourselves for battle before the Lord, and every one of you armed men cross the Jordan before the Lord until he's driven his enemies from his presence, and the land is subdued before the Lord, afterward you may return and be free from obligation to the Lord in Israel. And this land will belong to you as possession before the Lord. But if you don't do this, you will certainly sin against the Lord. Be sure your sin will catch up with you. Build cities for your dependents and have pens for your flocks, but do what you have promised." The Gadites and the Reubenites answered Moses, "Your servants will do just as my Lord commands. Our dependents, livestock, and all our animals remain here in the cities of Gilead. But your servants will are equipped for war before the Lord and will go across the battle as my Lord orders." So Moses gave orders about them, and priest Eleazar, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribes. Moses told them, "If the Gadites and Reubenites cross the Jordan with you, every man in the battle formation before the Lord of the land is to do for you. You are to give them the land of Gilead as a possession. But if they don't go across with you for battle formation, they must accept the land of Canaan with you." The Gadites and Reubenites replied, "What the Lord has spoken to you as servants is what we will do. We'll cross over in battle formation before the Lord and land Canaan, but we'll keep in our hereditary possession across the Jordan." So Moses gave them, the Gadites, Reubenites, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of King Shinar, and the Amorites, and the kingdom of King Og of Bashan, the land introducing cities with the territory surrounding them. The Gadites rebuilt Dibon, Ataroth, Eror, Atroth, Shopim, Jazer, Jogbeha, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran as fortified cities and built sheep pens. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon and Elah, Kirithaim, as well as Nebo and Baal-meon, whose names were changed, and Sima. They gave names to the cities they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Nazi, went to Gilead, captured it, and drove out the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to the clan of Machir, son of Manasseh, and they settled in it. Jair, descendants of Manasseh, went and captured their villages, which remained Jair villages. Naboth went out and captured Nath, the surrounding villages, and called it Naboth after his own name. So this is the final chapter, chapter 33, Wilderness Travels Review. These were the stages of the Israelites' journey when they went out to the land of Egypt with their military divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's command, Moses wrote down the starting points of the stages of their journey. These are the stages listed by their starting points. They traveled from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the month. On the day after the Passover, the Israelites went out defiantly in the sight of the Egyptians. Meanwhile, the Egyptians were bearing every firstborn male the Lord had struck down among them. For the Lord had executed judgment against their gods. The Israelites traveled from Ramses and camped at Sukkot. Oh yeah, this is I made it to past page 200 now. I'm not really sure about your Bible if you're reading along with me, or if you're just listening. Then just know it's page 200 for me. They traveled from Succoth and camped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They traveled from Etham and had turned back to Pi-Hahiroth, which faces Baal-Zephon, and they camped before Migdal. They traveled from Pi-Hahiroth and crossed through the middle of the sea into the wilderness. Took a 3-day journey into the wilderness of Etham and camped at Merar. They traveled from Meral and came to Elim. There are 12 springs and 70 date palms at Elim, so they camped there. They traveled from Elim and captured by the Red Sea, and camped by the Red Sea. They traveled from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. They traveled from the wilderness of Sin and camped in Dophkam. They traveled from Dophkam and camped in Alush. They traveled from Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They traveled from Rephidim, camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They traveled from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattava. They traveled from Kibroth Hattava and camped at Hazeroth. They traveled from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmal. They traveled from Rithmal and camped at Ramin Perez. They traveled from Ramin Perez and camped at Libnah. They traveled from Libnah and camped at Rizal. They traveled from Rizal and camped at Kelatha. They traveled from Kelatha, camped at Mount Shepherd. They traveled from Mount Shepherd and camped at Herida. They traveled from Herida and camped at Machpelah. Traveled from Machpelah and camped at Tahath. They traveled from Tahath and camped at Terah. Traveled from Terah and camped at Mizgah. They traveled from Mizgah and camped at Hashmana. Traveled from Hashmana and camped at Mazeroth. They traveled from Mazeroth and camped at Beni Jacan. Traveled from Beni Jacan and camped at Har-Hagid. Traveled from Har-Hagid and camped at Jothbatha. They traveled from Jothbatha and camped at Abranah. Traveled from Abranah and camped at Ezen-Geber. They traveled from Ezen-Geber and camped at the wilderness of Sin as Kadesh. They traveled from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor on the edge of the land of Edom. The Lord's command, the priest Aaron climbed Mount Hor and died there on the first day of the month on the 14th year. The Israelites went out from the land of Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old and he died on Mount Hor. At the time, the Canaanite king of Aravarad, who lived in Negev in the land of Canaan, heard the Israelites were coming. They traveled from Mount Hor and camped at Salmana. They traveled from Salmana and camped at Panan. They traveled from Panan and camped at Oboth. They traveled from Oboth and camped at Abram on the border of Moab. They traveled from Eam and camped at Debun Gad. They traveled from Debun Gad and camped from Ammon Diblathim. Traveled from Almon Diblathim and camped in the Abraham range facing Nabu. They traveled from the Abraham range and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. They camped from the Jordan of Beth Jeshemoth to Acacia Meadow on the plains of Moab. Instructions for occupying Canaan. The Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Tell the Israelites, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you. Destroy all the stone images and cast images, and demolish their high places. You are to take possession of the land and settle in it, because I have given you the land to possess. You are to receive the land as an inheritance by lot according to your clans. Increase inheritance for a large clan and decrease it for a small one. Whatever place the lot indicates for someone will be his. You'll receive an inheritance according to your ancestral tribe. But if you don't drive out the inhabitants of the land before you, those you allow to remain will become bars for your eyes and thorns for your sides. Still harass you in the land where you live, and what I plan to do with them, I will do to you. So that is all for today. Tomorrow we'll be finishing up Numbers, and the way I plan to do it, I've been thinking about it. I kind of want making it. If you've ever watched YouTube on TV or whatever, there's sections you can put where different things are in different sections. And so I'm gonna stop the stream once I finish, and then put part 2, and start back the stream once I finish this book of the Bible, so that if I put a section of all the videos for Genesis and then all of them for Exodus, there's not part of it that has a little bit of Genesis and a little bit of Exodus. So because that had to happen in Numbers and Leviticus. So I wanted to try to think of a way that would make that not happen. So yeah, quick summary of what happened. And this starts out talking about regulations for vows. If a woman made a vow, then what would cause it to not be count and make her not be bound to it, and what would happen that would cause her to be bound to her vows. And then talks about the war they had with Midian and all the stuff they do, things, the people they're supposed to equip for it, and all that. And then the Trans-Jordan settlements, talking about even not just people talking about where they wanted to not cross the river, but they wanted to stay in the not quite promised land to settle down. And then so it talks about that for a while, and then it goes on for the wilderness travels review, and so that just keeps on going. Then finally goes on the instructions for occupying Canaan, and then ends. So that was all for today. I hope you've had a great day so far. Have a great rest today. Remember, God loves you. Goodbye.